So while she had given an interview in March 2011 saying, I'm going to have nothing more to do with Jeffrey Epstein, after that, she was actually begging him to get back in touch with her.
Political side of this story. Let's move on and talk about the royal side of the story, because Sarah Ferguson's charity, Sarah's Trust, has announced it will close for the foreseeable future, just days after new details emerged about the former Duchess of York's friendship with late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. A spokesman for the foundation said the decision comes after some months of discussion. Kate Mansey is the Times royal editor and joins us in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
I mean, how significant, first off, is this for Sarah Ferguson, the closure of this particular charity?
I think this is devastating for Sarah Ferguson. You know, for years she's maintained a lot of charitable work. And even when there was a lot of heat on Andrew, and there has been for a long time over his friendship with Epstein, Sarah Ferguson managed to sort of distance herself from that for a while. So last May I was at Buckingham Palace with the King, and he had invited Sarah Ferguson into the ballroom for a charity engagement because of her work for cancer charities. Of course, she's been a cancer patient herself. So it really shows you how much kind of support there was for her. But the latest emails are so damning. You know, obviously we know now that she's lost her Duchess of York title. This is the sort of final really blow for her and for her career. I mean, the latest dossier that we saw drop on Friday really put her again at the centre of it. We've seen an email in which she writes to Epstein saying, I know you were only using me to get to Andrew. So while she had given an interview in March 2011 saying, I'm going to have nothing more to do with Jeffrey Epstein, after that, she was actually begging him to get back in touch with her. So the opposite was true, that he ended up cutting her off. So all this has come out. We see documents in which an assistant appearing to act for Sarah Ferguson seems to be suggesting to an Epstein assistant to book flights for them. And then Sarah's assistant seems to say, will Sarah be flying business or first class? And Jeffrey Epstein just writes back, business, or biz as he called it. So it was all this sort of back channels of buying flights. At one point he wires her $150,000, which we're now told was profits from her own share options from her Waitrose. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It was Weight Watchers. From her Weight Watchers endorsements, she was owed some profit from her share options, and he had organised that and wired it back into her bank account. So it puts her now right back at the centre of it. I mean, former testimony from Ghislaine Maxwell says that it was actually Fergie who met, as they call her, met Epstein first in the Bahamas and then introduced him to Andrew. So it's interesting to see her, but the charity closure will be really devastating for her.
Yeah, that shift is interesting because it has noticeably knocked Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor off the main sort of most significant headlines, at least for the moment. It's not to say that will remain the case. Is that because it's seen that he has kind of suffered some demotion and something has been done there? I mean, the King has acted decisively and relatively quickly, whereas, with the politics, maybe that's not quite the case. And with Sarah Ferguson, it's much more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, she finds herself now in a situation where she's having to move out of Royal Lodge. There's no obvious place where she's going to go at this stage.
Do you know where she's going?
We don't know at this stage. I'm told that she's still looking at her options and she wants to stay within the Windsor area. But it doesn't seem clear yet where she's going to.
Isn't the problem, and everyone has a moral opinion on people, and who's to say what anyone would do in a given situation. I would like to think many people would not take their 19 and 20-year-old daughters to meet a convicted paedophile a week after he emerges from prison. But that's the thing. I think that the reason why this is sticking so much to her, she seemed to say, I know what you're like. I'm going to talk about my daughters in quite frank ways to you, even though I know you like young women, and I'll bring my young female daughters to visit you. That feels like there's a sort of moral tint to this story.
Absolutely, and I think that's the feeling within the palace now. We're being told that Andrew has to examine his conscience as to whether he testifies against US Congress. But the timing, as you say, is extraordinary. It's within weeks of him being released after pleading guilty for sex offences and being sentenced for such. And then there she is, not only taking her daughters to see him, but having him pay for the flights and stay in his property, which is it's sort of baffling to see. Then afterwards, we've seen an email in which she asks Andrew for a job. So she says, I'd like to work at organising your houses. You know, I'd like to work for you.
Not Andrew Epstein.
Sorry, yeah.
Ask Epstein for a job.
Sorry, she asked Epstein for a job. Yeah.
Which is, again, really quite remarkable. Kate, thank you for taking us through that. That is Kate Mansey, the Times royal editor there.